All right, I got another one for you guys. This comes from Niche Gamer. Unity CEO John Riccitello is retiring effective immediately. So, after all the Unity controversy around their pricing changes and all the hubbub about that, they finally decided to make sure John decided to step down. Because certainly this was not intentional on his part, I don't think. But then again, I could be wrong because there's some interesting stuff in this article. Definitely recommend you checking out the whole thing. I'll link it in the description. But the whole thing stems from these pricing changes primarily, but that's not the whole story in my book. So I'll get into that in a minute. But the interesting part here is that Riccitello sold over 50,000 shares from Unity over the year leading up to their controversial pricing changes, with some stocks sold as recently as the week before pricing was announced. Sounds like to me that is a golden parachute before the golden parachute was necessary. So I don't know what's going on there, but that seems a little fishy to me. I'm sure that the SEC will not be getting involved, but yeah, they probably should be. But what are you going to do? He was hired back in 2014, not longer after he left Electronic Arts. And during his tenure, he oversaw their shift from a one-time license fee to a subscription model, as well as their launching their IPO. It's been a privilege to lead Unity for nearly a decade and serve our employees, customers, developers, and partners, all of whom have been instrumental to the company's growth. Riccitello said, "I look forward to supporting Unity through this transition and following the company's future success." Not so sure they're going to see success, but we'll see. I mean, a leadership change is one of the things that'll bring people back. Personally, for me, it's too late. I am done with Unity. Just because seeing what other options are out there and looking back on Unity over the past few years, not just these pricing changes, but few years, I am definitely better off staying the course with Unreal, learning Godot, or Godot, and continuing on down those roads, because there are better options there than I think there are going to be at Unity going forward. Certainly based on what I've seen over the past few years, like I said. So like I said, with the pricing changes not being the entire story for me, let me just get into that, because it's kind of interesting to see how Unity has changed under his tenure. Knowing that he started in 2014 is actually quite telling, because it wasn't long after that things started to change for the worse. And what I mean by that is, Unity had this promising, bright future ahead of it. It had this new tech stack called the Entity Component System and DOTS, data-oriented tech stack, that it was developing in-house to try and improve performance of its engine. It was a very different way of going about programming, but it was a very effective means of really tapping into the multi-threading and performance of a modern machine, as opposed to the old way of doing Unity. And it was awesome. I mean, I worked with it a few years ago, checking out some tutorials and building some demo projects, and just the sheer performance that you can get out of it was absolutely phenomenal. And the idea was, oh, we're going to take this and we're going to replace our entire multiplayer stack with DOTS. And it's going to be high performant, and it's going to have all these features, and it's going to be great, and you're going to love it. We're going to take our physics system and replace it with DOTS. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. It's going to have all these features. It's going to be great. We're going to replace X, Y, Z, the whole 9 yards, and everything is going to be DOTS based, and it's going to be easy to work with. And we're going to do it soon. That was the thing. We're going to do it soon. And soon never came. Soon turned into, well, we need to change this. Well, we need to change that. Well, we need to, take this thing that was built a certain way and worked a certain way with your code and completely alter it, so that all your code breaks. And we're talking years of this, years and years and years. It's been in alpha and beta. Nothing has been officially released. And in fact, the irony of the whole thing is DOTS was released less than a month before all these pricing changes hit. So DOTS got released to 1.0, and then right after that, they released another breaking change that broke a bunch of stuff. So yet again, more broken promises, more things that are going to break your code even after release. It was very frustrating. And all those great big new tech stacks that they were promising, they did end up coming about, but all of the tech stacks that they were promising ended up being all this service-oriented architecture stuff, all this service-based, oh, well, you got multiplayer, and it's highly performant and it's great and all, but you really should use our servers for it and pay us. Oh, well, you got physics, but Unity physics, it still kind of sucks. But, we got this partnership deal with Havok, and they use dots, and their Havok physics engine is awesome, and you can use that, but you got to pay them. And then they pay us a cut. So it was all this nickel and diming crap years before the pricing changes. They were trying to get you going and coming, and then all of a sudden these pricing changes hit, and it's just completely untenable for most developers. And I think that for a lot of people, not just me, that was the thing that broke the camel's back. That was the thing that everybody said, all right, enough is enough. After so many failed promises, after so many changes, after so many things that they've been screwing with, and trying to turn into services that they charge us for, we're all done. So a lot of people left, not just me. And even now, seeing that Riccitello step down, it would take a lot for me to go back. I thought originally when all this went down, well, if a leadership change happened and they went back on their pricing changes, which both of those have happened, and they stay consistent with it for a while, I might consider going back. But that answer now for me is I'm still not going back. They could stick with this for years and it wouldn't matter to me. Just being able to make that switch to Unreal and see what's out there, see what Godot has to offer, seeing their licensing model, which is freaking amazing. Godot is free. It's open source. You own it. You own your code. You don't have to pay them a dime. They'll take donations because they're an open source project. They'll take a donation, but you don't have to pay them anything. That's very attractive given the Unity pricing structure, and the fact that Unreal could potentially do the same thing. But again, Unreal has been very consistent with their pricing. They've stayed the same for years and years and years. I can reasonably trust them to stay consistent with their pricing because they're making the money hand over fist, and my success is their success, and that makes sense, and I agree with that. Even though Unity is a better deal at this point, it doesn't matter because Unity is inconsistent where Unreal has been very consistent, and so I'm sticking with Unreal. And just the tooling available. The tooling in Unreal is fantastic. It is light years ahead of what Unity has. It is light years ahead of what Unity promised 10 years ago. And they were promising the moon at the time, and still Unreal has just got them beat, hands down. It's a very different architecture, and it's going to set me back quite a bit. But it is what it is. And, now that I see what I can do with Unreal versus Unity, I'm not going back. And I'm sure I'm not the only developer to see that. I'm sure I'm not the only dev to be looking into the Unreal C++ engine and the blueprint system and all this stuff and getting a little intimidated by it, but realizing the potential, the vast potential there, and so far and away from what Unity had to offer. So I think they're in real trouble. They can't just go back on what they messed up. They have to actually fix all of the last 10, 15 years of mistakes. And that's not going to take a day. That's not going to take a month. That's not going to take a year. That's going to take years. And I don't think they have that. To be perfectly honest, I think Unity is going to end up being a third-rate player in this game in the next year or two. I think you're going to see Unreal do way better. I think you're going to see Godot do way better. I think you have the potential right now where Godot is going to surpass Unity. I can see that happening simply because unless another player gets in the market, Godot has C#. It's a bit of a learning curve, but it's not that big of a deal. And they're different engines, and there are things you're going to be struggling with. But at the end of the day, if you know C#, which you do when you're using Unity, Godot is the way to go. And they've made vast improvements over the last few years in their 3D. And their 2D is second to none. Their 2D is awesome. Their 2D is better than Unity's 2D, in my opinion. Not that I do 2D games, but it is what it is. And a lot of people do 2D games, and they're going to do them in Godot. Guaranteed. So you're going to see that in the next few years. Going to be something interesting to look forward to. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about this whole debacle, and is it a good idea that Riccitello is stepping down? Do you think that's going to bring developers back, or is it too little too late? Let me know in the comments, and I will talk to you guys later.